One of the reasons I'm so frustrated by all the shouting about the Pakistani grooming gangs
This will make your blood boil. Wait to hear what Shelagh Fogarty from LBC says next about people who make a noise about Pakistani grooming gangs.
is I don't hear the same people bellowing about Pakistani grooming gangs. I don't hear them bellowing about church abuse. I don't hear them bellowing and screaming at people on social media about sports coaches' abuse. I don't hear the same level of exercise about it. And I think there can only be one reason for that, and it's race. I'm not...
Oh my God! You're all racist, apparently. If you talk about the grooming gangs, you're a racist. If you talk about the link between Pakistani culture and the grooming gangs, if you talk about the predominance of Pakistani Muslim men amongst the perpetrators of these crimes, even though Pakistanis only make up, I think, 3% of the population, they are massively overrepresented in the data on grooming gangs. If you talk about that, well, you're just a racist because you're not currently shouting about the church and about sports coaches at the moment. Even if you made a noise about that in the past, which, I'm sure many of us did. In fact, it was all over the media when, the whole church scandal and whatnot unfolded. It's not like a noise wasn't made about it, but because at this moment we happen to be talking about Pakistani grooming gangs and not talking about the church right now, we must be a bunch of racists. I mean, come on, the mental gymnastics she has had to do here to make us look like a bunch of bigots. It's just unbelievable.
Saying that in the Pakistani grooming gangs there isn't something to look at. Of course there is. That there are probably some cultural elements to what happened. There will be geographical elements to what happened, i.e. closeness. But the same is true in churches. Large numbers of powerful men worked together to hide the abuse of children, and still do. Still do. Could we have some shouting and screaming about that? Could you throw a few per capitas at me about that on social media? But the truth is we still haven't got to grips, and we're still not focusing properly on what we should be focusing on, which is victims to whom it's already happened and trying to stop any more children from becoming victims.
What an absolute plonker to suggest that we're racist for caring about the rape of young girls. And we're not just talking about girls that are raped once. I mean, that's traumatic enough as it is. Talk to anybody who's been raped once and they'll say that it's scarred them for life. But we're talking here about girls who weren't just raped once, but were raped over periods of often, 5+ years at a time, over and over and over again, being told if you don't turn up today, to be raped by a group of a load of men and plied with alcohol and drugs, then we're gonna kill your family, we're gonna burn your house down, we're gonna chop your brother's legs off. I mean, imagine putting up with that, tormenting abuse for years and years and years. And then to have Shelagh Fogarty from LBC say, sorry, the people who are speaking up for you, the people who are trying to finally help your voices get heard, the people who are trying to finally ensure that there is an inquiry and that people in positions of authority who covered this up are held to account, the people saying that, they're just racist. Really? Shelagh? Really? Are you that pathetic? It's the same lefties who claim to be feminists, who claim to, be champions of women, who are quite happy to see them raped en masse by, grooming gangs that are predominantly, or at least, overrepresented in the data, massively the group Pakistani Muslim men. She tweeted, nobody denies the Pakistani heritage facts of some gangs. Nobody. I just want to know why this group above all enrages you. Priests, sports, coaches, scouts, teachers, not so much. Let's take a look at a couple of tweets that people wrote in response. Lucy Brown says, many of us care about white perpetrators too, Shelagh. Many of us have been harmed and abused by white men, and we talk about established patterns all the time. This is pure rape apology. Stop. And James Dennison says, the suggestion that people have not been absolutely outraged over the years by child abuse in church, both Anglican and Catholic, is an offensive, utterly intolerable misrepresentation. Quite right. There was a huge outrage about the church. People will, whenever there have been cases of of sports coaches acting in horrific ways. It has been talked about. It just doesn't happen to be in the news cycle at this exact moment, because we're all focused on this push for a national inquiry. And even if it is the case, we get different data sets from different places, depends what period of time you look at, depends what area you look at. We also saw in Louise Casey's report that only about in a third of cases ethnicity data is recorded. We can't say for certain, like, this is the exact percentage of grooming gang perpetrators that are Pakistani. Even if it is less than 50%, we certainly know that Pakistani Muslim men are massively overrepresented in the data compared to the 3% of the population that they make up in this country. And what I'll also say is that the reason why we are outraged in this particular case, where it is Pakistani grooming gangs, is not because we don't care about the cases where there are white perpetrators. It's because when there are white perpetrators, the authorities typically are willing to act. They're willing to make arrests. They're willing to investigate. They're not scared of dealing with the problem. There was, I think a couple of months ago, there was a big grooming gang of rape gang with white perpetrators that were given horrible, heavy sentences. They're going to spend a lot of time behind bars in Scotland. They were sentenced, and everyone looked at that and went, look, there are white grooming gangs. All this talk that it's just Pakistanis is wrong. But I mean, what that case showed is that when it is white people, there are consequences, and they are given tough sentences. Yet you see Pakistani grooming gangs, it's not dealt with, it's hid under the carpet. In most cases, the authorities are scared to touch it. They try to cover it up. And when they are given sentences, it's often just, a couple of years for raping multiple children many, many times over and over and over again. They're only there for a couple of years, and then they're let out straight back into the community. They're not deported. We only know of one individual who has been deported since 2011 for this crime. The reason why we are specifically talking about the Pakistani grooming gangs is not because we don't care about when they are white perpetrators. It's because it is when it's Pakistani grooming gangs that there is a cover-up that needs to be investigated. That cover-up needs to be understood. We need to understand why it's happening and make sure that it does not happen again. We should not have girls going to the authorities saying, I am being raped by all of these men, please can you help me? And they're just kicked out, told, oh, you consented even though you're 13. You're just a child prostitute even though you're 13, right? That is why we are talking about this. It's not because we are a bunch of racists. Anyway, went on a bit with that rant, but other people online on Twitter, they are digging out old videos of Sheila as well, and this one has also gone viral.
We had a situation in Rotherham where for 30 years, young girls, I understand intercourse with a man is called rape. Young girls were raped for 30 years. The authorities knew all about it and everything else. We know the community, that was 96% of one community were guilty of this. The police, local authorities, schools were all powerless to do anything in case they were accused of racism.
Still true, Susan, that the vast majority of child sexual abuse in this country happens in people's homes with family members or family friends. And that means that the vast majority of child abuse is still perpetrated by white men.
Oh, that old chestnut.
Okay, well,
haven't heard you say that
that's
before.
Part of our culture.
But wait till what she says next.
I understand that, and that's
Very
what
much
happens all
so,
over the world.
sadly.
Men do that to women. Okay,
And
but
children.
This was totally. Okay, men do that to women and children, which is horrendous. But this could have been stopped.
Yes, it could. So could a lot of the other stuff. But Susan,
were so high.
Susan, so could a lot of the other stuff. There is no culture that doesn't have child abuse in it.
Oh my God, there's no cultural link whatsoever. Men across the world, doesn't matter what country you're from, they all got an equal propensity to abuse children. There's nothing there. The fact that, the vast majority of perpetrators in Rotherham are Pakistani Muslim men. There's nothing there in the fact that just, that Pakistanis make up only about 3% of the British population, yet a way bigger percentage than that, depending on which set of information you look at, you will see in pretty much every one, no matter what different percentage you get, that it's way more than 3% of grooming gang perpetrators are Pakistani men. But Sheila, she thinks there's nothing there. There's nothing to look at. Every culture has an equal propensity to abuse children, just because there are some white people that happen to do it as well. I mean, how many brain cells does this woman have? Okay, I mean, LBC, sort yourselves out. I mean, the quality of their presenters. You got her, you got James O'Brien, Nick Ferrari's all right sometimes. They got Lewis Goodall. It just, the lineup is just absolutely atrocious, and the stuff that they spout out. The only reason they probably get some viewers is because you got hate viewers. You know, I've watched that video because I think it's absolutely, and I've shared it because I think it's absolutely ludicrous, not because I like it, but it's given them some views, I guess. But anyway, hope you enjoyed that video. We will continue to highlight cases of absolutely bonkers stuff appearing on LBC and other stations. So make sure you're subscribed to Reason so that you stay tuned for more videos. Thanks for watching.